Madam Deputy Speaker, the Prime Minister has given the United Kingdom the highest COVID death rate in the world, the deepest economic recession of the G7, and given billions of money to Tory donors for procurement contracts. On top of that, we've got a Brexit deal that will cut our economy by 4% and 1.4 million jobs. And now we've got a Queen's speech that attacks our fundamental values of democracy, human rights, and the rule of law. His bills in this Queen's speech will mean he decides when the general election is called, will make it harder for poorer people to vote, make it harder to challenge government decisions, and harder to protest against them. Alongside this, we've seen the weakening of the BBC, the civil service, the universities, our fundamental institutions. And meanwhile, as we loosen the ties with Europe, our biggest and closest market and friend, that will weaken both our economy and our values. Millions of voters of poorer, more diverse communities will now be required to have voter ID, and that will reduce voter turnout. This is in essence voter suppression. In addition, the abolition of the Fixed Term Parliament Act means the Prime Minister can call the election when he likes. The Higher Education Freedom of Speech Bill opens the door for right-wing intolerance in our universities. The Judicial Review, Dissolution and Calling of Parliament Bill allows the Prime Minister to suspend our parliamentary democracy without the Supreme Court being able to intervene as it had to in 2019 to safeguard us. And it also reduces the ability of the courts to challenge the government's decisions, which is fundamental to our democracy. Our devolved democracy, of course, in Wales and Scotland and elsewhere, are also under attack from the centralisation of economic and political decision-making, which risks actually creating a divided economy in the name of the union. Despite the fact that in last week's elections, we saw a mandate for more, not less, devolution. And to top it all, we've got a bill coming forward, the Police Crime and Sentencing Courts Bill, that would actually undermine or stop peaceful protests. And such protests have been very much the lifeblood of our democracy, promoting democratic change, whether it's suffragettes, peace campaigners, trade unionists, EU supporters, climate change activists, or whatever. We've seen now in the Clapham Common Vigil and in the Bristol protests against this bill that the police have enough power and there's an issue of accountability. These changes, Madam Deputy Speaker, are the hallmarks of an emerging authoritarian state. So let's remember that our Queen Elizabeth gave her first Queen's speech when Winston Churchill was Prime Minister and the architect of the Council of Europe to promote democracy, human rights and the rule of law. And now, 70 years later, she must present an agenda that puts these fundamental British values at risk. It's for all of us and people across these lands to defend these values. I hope members in the weeks ahead will do just that. Diolch yn fawr iawn.